So, I don't know if it's a sad day in the Marvel Universe or not, but the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, James Gunn, was fired because it came out that he had made some pretty bad tweets. One of which was, "I like when little boys touch me in my silly place." That's probably not very good. I don't know what the context is in that. Don't know if you really can say that there's like much context to that. I don't know how you get led into where that becomes a joke. I don't know. I never really call myself a comedian. I like to make jokes. I think of myself as a funny person, but it stretches my imagination to figure out where that's a joke, how that came about. I'm sure there's a good reason for it, but I don't know. Another attempt at humor was, the best thing about being raped is when you're done being raped and it's like, whew, this feels great not being raped. I get the attempt there. I can understand the attempt there. I guess that's a funny take on it. I don't know. I don't know. But the guy's a director. He's not a comedian. So I think he's really good at telling other people to be funny. I don't know. It's just, apparently he also made some Holocaust jokes, some AIDS jokes. Who hasn't made AIDS jokes? And some September 11th jokes. And again, some of those can be funny. I don't know. But the other two, I think that's a stretch. He came out before he deleted his Twitter, had a big apology. I think it was like 5 or 6 parts. And essentially it said, and here's where the crux of the whole situation is. It essentially said, in my past, I made bad jokes. And, that sucks that those were found. And it sucks that I've now kind of lost my livelihood. Never going to get a job in Hollywood again, I'm sure. And, but in the past, I was a merry prankster, and now that sort of thing is not acceptable. And that's kind of the point, isn't it? Cenk went through this, the Young Turks host. He went through this too. He had some things in the past, and he got in trouble for that shit. And it's been reported that it was some right-wing people that discovered this sort of thing. Why that needed to be pointed out, I think, is pretty fucking obvious, because James Gunn is apparently a big old faker, and in order to keep his job in Hollywood, he went along with the trend and just lied, I think. And I think therein is the moral of the story. If you believe a certain way, then you should continue to believe that certain way. If you think that rape and pedophilia can be joked about, it doesn't matter at what point in history you make those jokes. That's kind of the person you are. You think those things can be joked about. And if you wind up finding yourself in an industry that doesn't think you can joke about that sort of thing, you either better be fucking smart enough to delete that shit before anybody finds it. If that's really, if you're really a person who's changed, then you should fully change and say, well, I got rid of these things because that's not the way that I am anymore. As opposed to just waiting until somebody finds out about you and hoping shit just goes under the radar. But I think that's the tricky thing in the situation. We've gone through a huge paradigm shift in the world. You know, I keep saying it over and over again. 5 years ago or so, you know, none of this shit was going on. People could make jokes about things, and you wouldn't lose your job and your livelihood over it. And a lot of people made a lot of those jokes. And now all of a sudden, the world is a very different place. And you can't make those jokes anymore because you get in trouble for that shit. So it's fun for me always to see, you know, the left essentially eating itself and self-destructing, because I believe that evil is self-destructive. And I think that when you're living your life as a lie, saying, oh, no, I'm a part of this whole social justice thing and this, that, and the other thing, when really you don't believe that way, you're just doing it just to get along, sooner or later you're going to get found out. And you know, I don't care personally about the tweets. A tweet is, to me, a tweet is something that is just your vomited thoughts on the internet. It doesn't really hold any weight for me. I don't really care. I don't think that he really enjoys little boys touching him in his silly spot. I think that's kind of absurd. If you're going to tweet that out, obviously it's not because that's really where you're at in your life. You're doing that to try and I don't even fucking know what. But I don't think that he's a pedophile. I don't think that he's a rapist. I don't think that he supports pedophilia or rape. I think he's a shit comedian and a good director. And I think he should have stayed with directing instead of trying to be a comedian. But nevertheless, he's one of those type of people that thinks a certain way and yet lies about who he is. And there's where I have the problem. Because had he come out and said, look, you know, I made fucked up jokes, they were shit jokes. If anything else, you could say I made some shit jokes. But as far as me being fired for all this sort of thing, as far as people saying I support this sort of thing or whatever, you're kind of assholes. You should grow the fuck up and learn how to accept a shit joke being a shit joke and move on with your fucking life. But, of course, Disney isn't going to do that. Because, you know, it's Disney. And Disney came out and said, the offensive attitudes and statements discovered on insert name here Twitter feed are indefensible and inconsistent with our studio's values, and we have severed the business relationships with him. Now, I said insert name here, not because they did, but because it's the same fucking thing they put for PewDiePie, it's the same fucking thing they put for Logan Paul, it's the same thing that they put for fucking everybody. You can essentially say insert name here. Because it doesn't matter, it's always what they're going to say, because they know that by doing this, that means they're clean. No, it is indefensible, and we do not, blah, blah. So, they're just as much bullshitters as everybody else. They could have given a fuck less. If you know, I just, it's so annoying to me how everybody is just lying to save face, and lying to not be caught, and lying to just lie. It's sad that the people, the right-wing people that found all this out, they decided to just destroy this guy's life because, hey, the left is doing it to us. Let's just, you know, fire back, because God alone only knows there's going to be no blowback from this. I'm sure that every single left-wing person in the world is now digging through every single right-wing person's fucking everything to try and find something to fuck them over too. And they're going to be successful, and the thing escalates, and it goes on and on and on, and it's a big cycle that is a very, very small loop. And I think it's just dumb. And I think on a long enough timeline of people doing this sort of shit, nobody's going to have a fucking job. Because who in their past hasn't done or said some shit? Remember, it wasn't all that long ago that this didn't matter as much as it does now. But again, I say, and I urge everybody in my audience, don't put anything on Twitter that you don't want people to read. It makes you stupid.